Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of the Pitch Side podcast. It's Friday, it's domestic football time. You know what that means. We're going to be back talking about the local leagues in Europe after a roller coaster of the Champions League in the midweek. We'll be back to that roller coaster of the Champions League next weekend, but before that we're going to take care of some of the meaty clashes. Of course, and at the weekend, more UCL Madness is coming before all of that. Even before talking about this weekend games, let me remind you to like the YouTube version of this podcast, share with your friends and family, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. This podcast will be daily for the moment, probably, until we figure out a fixed schedule going forward, but until then, it's going to be a daily podcast, ladies and gentlemen. You can listen on Spotify, Google Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can join us on social media at Pitchside Pod. I'm going to change that soon. Pitchside Pod and Side PSP on Twitter, Pitchside Pod on Instagram, Side PSP on Twitter. As I mentioned, it's important that we get our support to keep doing this podcast. Getting on with our business, let's sink our teeth into the big games of the week, and we're going to be starting from the Premier League. This weekend, the Premier League has, of course, let's mention briefly the fact that the game between Aston Villa and Newcastle was postponed. It's supposed to happen tonight on Friday, but an outbreak of COVID-19 amongst the Newcastle players forced the game to be postponed until a later date, of course. That means that it's going to be only 9 games in the fixtures today in the Premier League. The weekend holds some bigger games, of course, headlined by the London derby, Tottenham Arsenal. That's going to be on Sunday. Before that, let's check out the fixtures list really quickly for the Premier League. In this weekend, as we mentioned, the Aston Villa Newcastle game has been postponed. On Saturday, it will be Burnley hosting the wounded Everton again, Manchester City hosting Fulham, an easy game for Guardiola's boys once again, West Ham hosting Manchester United, Chelsea hosting Leeds, and West Bromwich hosting Crystal Palace. That's on Sunday afternoon. Sheffield United hosting Leicester, Tottenham, Arsenal, and Liverpool Wolves at both games on Sunday, and Brighton hosting Southampton. So let's get to the bigger games, of course. Tottenham vs Arsenal, a game that couldn't come for a better time. In a better time, sorry, for Tottenham Hotspur, while it couldn't come for a worse time for Arsenal, a team in Arsenal that are, losing everything in every aspect of the game. They're lacking creativity. The stubbornness of Mikel Arteta to find solutions elsewhere after he decided to shank Ozil out of any squad is really regrettable, probably, for him, lacking that creativity in the attack. I mean, Arsenal in the last month, they only scored 1 goal in 5 games. It became a running joke, the fact that the goal from the penalty for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was chosen goal of the month for Arsenal because they didn't score any goal aside from it. They're standing now at 14th on the table, one of the weakest attacks in the Premier League with 10 goals, considering Arsenal had some true legends of the business around that time. Arsene Wenger starting, the likes of Thierry Henry. You see the state that Arsenal are in now. Scoring barely 10 goals, considering that in the Europa League they're finding themselves really well. Like, it mind boggles you why they're doing this in the Europa League and they're not doing that in the Premier League. While they're scoring a plenty in the Europa League, they scored 17 in 5 matches in 5 matches in the Europa League, while in 10 matches in the Premier League they only scored 10, which is really interesting in a way to see what are the effects of Mikel Arteta deciding to drop Ozil of his squad. He doesn't have a proper number 10 aside from him. I mean, his whole tactics does not involve a number 10, so why he would bother himself and try to choose one. But certainly his stubbornness to look elsewhere to try and modify his tactics altogether. I mean, when he took the job at Arsenal, we thought that the 3-4-3 that he's using and the defensive aspect of the game that he's using is a limited sort of thing that he only uses against the bigger clubs. But it turns out over the course of the next 6 months or so that he used that against every team in the Premier League, and it doesn't work sometimes. So when you play in that way, and you don't have a number 10, you don't have a creator in the middle of the park, you're going to be deprived of solutions. You're not going to have enough attacks made, you're not going to have enough balls cut in to your strikers properly. You're talking about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, for example. The guy, I mean, the guy this season has been depressing to watch. I mean, you really think, I mean, this season he only scored 2 goals in 10 matches, and he's already like seemingly he changed a lot since last season. I don't know, like people are cursing, maybe it's the curse of the new contract, sorry, that he signed until 2023, but he changed a lot. I don't know what happened. Maybe because the whole team isn't playing well. I mean, although Arsenal really weren't doing much of that last season, but you have to ask yourself, where is the solution in Arsenal? Where is the creativity going to come from? Where is the imagination going to come from? Where's the solution to provide is going to come from now? For Tottenham, they are on a good run. Undefeated since the first game against Everton. That's their only loss this season in the Premier League, because they had another loss against Antwerp in the Europa League. They are on a good run of results. Their form is incredible, scoring 21 goals, the strongest defence in the league. Mourinho this season, he injected a lot of effectiveness in Tottenham, let's put it this way. He injected a lot of effectiveness in Tottenham. They are working like a machine, really. I mean, you might not like their game. They sit too deep sometimes. They sit too defensive sometimes. You will not like how they shape. Sometimes they feel like a 3-5-2 modified a little bit. You can feel the compactness of the shape. But you have to respect their drive. You have to respect their application. You have to respect their appliance, their abidance to the instructions of Jose Mourinho, staying in shape, not losing their position a lot. And I would talk about the last game against Chelsea. You want to talk about how bad Tottenham were. I don't think that they were bad. It was that they frustrated Chelsea, but they weren't bad. I mean, it's an ugly football style. Let's agree on that. It's ugly football. You don't need to like it. You don't need to be very, enjoyed and pleased by it. So Mourinho's doing what he needs. He's not doing what the fans like or what the viewers like. He's doing what he needs to get the points and get the job done. And he relies up front on a very, very deadly connection between Harry Kane and Son Heung-min, who are doing incredibly well. For Harry Kane, it is he is on an incredible run this season. He's not just scoring; he's the king of assists. He does that so often. You know, 7 goals, the king of assists this season. It just shows you that not all strikers can just score goals. You think of Harry Kane, Tottenham's goal scorer, 7 goals, king of the assists, 9 assists. Imagine that. Harry Kane has triple the assists that Bruno Fernandes has. Harry Kane has 9, Bruno Fernandes has 3. I think which shows you the importance of having someone like Harry Kane. Maybe you can spin it the other way and say, oh, but because they don't have a proper 10, because they play too defensive and just, throw the counters. I don't think so. I think their midfield has improved this season. Tanguy Ndombele in particular has improved to become one of the best centre midfielders I'm seeing right now. After all his problems with Mourinho, last season, and we remember the whole thing where it seemed like Tanguy Ndombele was at a certain point going to be leaving Tottenham because of his spat with Mourinho, and it ended up being maybe a good thing in hindsight, maybe a motivation for Tanguy Ndombele to work even harder to improve his game. I mean, in the game against not Chelsea, in the game against Manchester City, the game that they defeated Manchester City in 2-0, and everybody was like, oh, but they sit too deep, and they were really close, and they were defending, like, right in the box. They have the right to. But guess what? Whenever Tottenham got the ball, Tanguy Ndombele managed to look like Andres Iniesta in his prime, because Manchester City midfield were too bad defensively. For Arsenal, probably it's going to be the same, considering that they missed Thomas Partey. They're not going to be good in the work rate part of the midfield. And I have no problem against El Nene. I'm Tunisian, he's Egyptian. We're both Africans, so I should be supporting him. I have no problem with El Nene. But this kind of situation requires someone with the hard work and the work rate of Thomas Partey. Because if you're going to have Moussa Sissoko, by the way, he's one of the most underrated midfielders on the planet. You have to give that guy his due. Because if they're starting with Moussa Sissoko and Højbjerg, who's really doing well at the moment, and they start with Tanguy Ndombele almost a cam at the moment. He's a number 10 by default. Giovanni Lo Celso, and as good as Giovanni Lo Celso is a second option, which just shows you how improved Tanguy Ndombele is under Tottenham, and how Tottenham are not just about defence, but they know what to do in the transition. Mourinho is doing what Diego Simeone doesn't do right with Atletico Madrid in Spain. He knows how to transition from defence to attack smoothly and quickly, and he knows how to do that perfectly. You need any evidence? Just go and watch about any game of Tottenham this season. Go watch the highlights about any game for Tottenham this season. Maybe not the Everton one, but watch about any highlights of a Premier League fixture for Tottenham afterwards, and you will see how how smooth, how fast they would do that. So this game, it's a game of complete contrasts, of complete, extremes, I would say. It couldn't come at a worse time for Arsenal, it couldn't come at a better time for Tottenham. I certainly cannot see another result other than Tottenham winning, by hook or by crook. People may label this as a game of teams that defend, but not necessarily. I don't think so. It's not exactly defense versus defense. It's going to be Tottenham's attack, the potent threat of Heung-min Son and Harry Kane versus the flailing defence, really, of Arsenal at the moment, who are going to be missing some key players in this fixture, in the likes of Thomas Partey, and a good option in substitute bench in Gabriel Martinelli. Also, let's talk a bit about Liverpool versus Wolves. Special game for Diogo Jota. He's going to be returning to play against his, until a recent time, former side. They're entering this game, of course, without a bunch of injuries. Alisson knocked again, still with Joe Gomez, Milner, Chamberlain, Van Dijk, Shaqiri, Alcantara, Trent Alexander-Arnold is nearing a full fitness. Not now, he won't be available. Naby Keita. From, of course, the Wolves side, Raul Jimenez, who received a nasty injury in the game against Arsenal last time out. Hopefully he gets soon enough. I mean, I saw some pictures, I don't know if they're right or not, but I saw some pictures of his skull. It seems like a fracture, and it will need probably some long-term time to heal out. They're going to be missing Johnny as well, Roman Saiz. This game has been one of the hardest fixtures for Liverpool as of late. You look at the results. The last couple of times this team has met since the 2017-18 season, and they met in the FA Cup, and Wolves, eliminated Liverpool. They met, Liverpool managed a hard 2-0 win away in 2018. Then you have Wolves defeating Liverpool in 2019 in the FA Cup, eliminating them again from said competition. Liverpool defeated them in both Premier League fixtures last time out. but it was hard, and the one in the Molineux was even harder, of course, because Wolves played really better. Even the defeat at Anfield for Wolves last season was pretty harsh. We'll remember what happened. Vieira cancelling a couple of goals for Wolverhampton, and a goal that was, questionable if there's an offside for Mane from Liverpool. But so this game is hard for Liverpool, and that is going to be guaranteeing excitement. And this is going to be another test, I think, for Jurgen Klopp after the game against Atalanta, after the game against Brighton, after the game against Ajax. And the game against Brighton shouldn't have been, such a test. Shouldn't have been a hard encounter to talk about. But that was the case with Liverpool's poor performance this season. And yes, if you're not seeing some of the poor performances Liverpool are doing and are performing, I think you're blind, really. You're just going with your emotion and saying Liverpool are just doing great. They're not doing great. They are doing enough at some points, and that's what the Ajax game seems as of late. For example, in the Champions League, they do enough, but they're not doing that often. For Wolves, they are 7th in the table, 17 points. They have not the best of form exactly. They only had 8 points at the last 5. Their results aren't exactly perfect, of course. They don't have they don't have Europa League fixtures to worry about this season, unlike last season, which should be a good thing for them, but they're not necessarily making the best for it. They're going to be missing a very big player in Raul Jimenez. They're going to be missing an ace striker in the Premier League in Raul Jimenez. I really believe he is one of the best, one of the greatest strikers now in the Premier League. And missing him is probably going to make a focal point lost for them. Probably they will start with Podence and Adam Traore as the two up front, which still going to give Liverpool's incoherent defence a lot of problem. Yes, it's still incoherent defence for Liverpool because they're still missing, Gomez, Arnold and Van Dijk. So it's going to be like Matip, Fabinho, it's going to be Nico Williams on the right, Nathaniel Phillips, Reece Williams maybe. We're going to see what combination Jurgen Klopp is going to use. This should be an interesting game. It should be a very good game. A hard game for Liverpool, expectedly, but it should be a good game as well. The Premier League 11th round finishes, of course, on Monday. Brighton faces Southampton. Southampton coming off of a disappointing loss, I would say, against Man United last week, where they should have really comfortably won the game, considering that they were on top for the most part. From England, we move to Germany. In Germany, of course, there's a big fixture heading our way this Saturday. Before that, Hertha Berlin faces Union Berlin, the derby of the capital in Germany, tonight, this Friday. On Saturday, Bielefeld faces Mainz, Freiburg hosts Borussia Mönchengladbach in a game I think that Marco Rose is never thinking about this game. He's not going to be thinking about this game. He's always thinking Real Madrid. He's thinking the next game in the Champions League to qualify. So expect a second side, really, to start in that game. Eintracht Frankfurt facing Dortmund. Dortmund are going to be missing Erling Haaland. Missing Erling Haaland for injury, which turned out to be that he's going to be missing the rest of the year, or injury, which is a bad thing considering how crucial Haaland quickly has become for Dortmund. They're going to be missing Thomas Meunier, Thomas Delaney as well. Mats Hummels is in question, as long as Emre Canto. This is going to be a deprived side of a proper striker. And Marco Reus, all the respect I love in the world for Marco Reus, I thought he's one of the GOATs that never been because of the injuries, but he's not going to do Haaland's job. He's not the finisher that Haaland is. He's not the player with the ball that Haaland is. He's not the mover that Haaland is. He doesn't make the right movements exactly now like Haaland is. They will try maybe something like a false nine with Jadon Sancho, Giovanni Reina, something like that. But should they play Moukoko? Should they play Yusufa Moukoko? Maybe the guy already debuted against Hertha Berlin for a couple of minutes. Throw him in the fire already. He will deal himself really well. Köln, the side who defeated Dortmund last week, host VfL Wolfsburg, who climbed into the top half of the table. They're doing quite good this season. Maybe they will have something to say. Maybe they'll be back to the Champions League this season. It's been a while. Who knows? Werder Bremen, Stuttgart on Sunday. Schalke, Bayern Leverkusen on Sunday as well. Hearts to Schalke. Really, really sad situation at Schalke. Financial crisis getting bigger and bigger for the Royal Blues. Furloughing players, furloughing players, letting players go, letting staff go. It's just sad to see, really. It just, it doesn't feel good. It feels like we've seen that with Palermo. Maybe they're going to be regressing down and down the divisions, but hopefully we don't see that. It looks like they're going to be down this season, but hopefully they'll be back really, really soon. Hoffenheim finishes the round 10 on Monday by hosting Augsburg. Now, you might notice that I didn't mention a game. That's because the game that I'm going to be talking about is the biggest one. It's the big fixture in the Bundesliga this week. It is Bayern Munich versus RB Leipzig. And this is a game that is going to be wrap some heads around it. Because for the RB Leipzig, it's not just a trip. It's a trip to Bayern. And RB Leipzig, in the back of their minds and the back of Julian Nagelsmann's mind for sure, they must be thinking, okay, we have Bayern Munich this Saturday, and then we have Man United on Tuesday. So, how would we deal with that? Who's going to be resting? Who's going to be playing? Who's going to be starting? Basically it comes down to the choice of whether we should play Bayern with our full force, thinking about keeping ourselves in the Bundesliga, and enter the game against United already exhausted, while we need the win to qualify. This is the choice that Julian Nagelsmann's side is going to be boiling down to. It is a choice that is hard to make, but they should be making, I think. It's going to be, I think, apparent, that choice, in the mentality of the players in the game. If you're going to see Leipzig performing hard, if you're going to see Leipzig pressing, you're going to see Leipzig trying hard to do the things that they usually did against Bayern, you will clearly understand that Leipzig chose to play for their full force and play to stay in the race of La Liga. If they're going to be sitting back and trying to play for the least damage possible, then yes, you probably understand that Bayern Munich are going to be the aggressors, are going to be the ones who are going to be taking the game by the scruff of the neck, and they should be. They're top of the table, they need to get a head start now. Probably this is the time of the season. It's a crucial game, crossroads, but not deciding. Not a title deciding yet. We're still in round 10. We barely played 10 rounds. Who knows what could happen? But for Bayern, it's this game that I think is going to kickstart their season, maybe kickstart the escape with the title, which, as a Bayern fan, I don't like to see. I don't like to see Bayern Munich escape with the title this season. There's a side in me that almost wishes Bayern to lose or to draw in this game just to keep the race going, because it's sad to see the Bundesliga for the 9th year in a row something be decided already early in the season and by half the time. And by half the season, it's already decided. I don't really like to see that. Bayern are going to be missing, still missing Kimmich, of course. He returned to training, individually at least. Is going to be back probably for next year, maybe by the time, of course, the round of 16 rolls around for the Champions League. He will be there, currently to Liso. Aside from that, and Kilman. Aside from that, Hansi Flick, on a 53-game tenure with the club, has a full squad to choose from. This is Leipzig's best start, by the way, to a top-flight campaign. That's why this game is important. There are 6 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. Best start for them ever. And the 2 draws, particularly the one they had against Eintracht Frankfurt, I think could have been avoided, really. They were the leaders. They could have avoided that draw. They are on a good run, but they have a big problem, I think, of finishing and attacking. They only scored 18 goals. And when you consider that Bayern scored 31 already in 9, you would ask yourself, okay, what they should be doing. They're defending really well, by the way. They're really doing some solid defending this season as far as I'm concerned, which Bayern are not doing a lot of, not keeping enough clean sheets. For Leipzig, I haven't been impressed with their defensive aspects. The strongest defense in the Bundesliga, 6 goals only conceded in 9 for RB Leipzig, and that has to do with a huge part with the fact that they have 2 quality centre-backs. Yes, 2, not 1. 2 quality centre-backs, because if people are only focused with Upamecano and he's on demand, Bayern are really the first horse to be in the race. For Upamecano, I'm focused with Brahim Konate. I like the fact that he, seems to be completing Upamecano in a sort of way. Upamecano is the driving defender, is the defender that drives forward, ventures forward. Upamecano is the kind of guy, is the showman defender, so to speak, in other terms, in Leipzig, while Brahim Konate is the guy that sweeps, is the guy that just clears the ball forward. When there's a header, he heads it away, hoofs it away. That's simple. I'm really impressed with both, but the fact that they have a finishing problem might be a disturbing thing for them, because if you're going to be playing against Bayern, you know that there's a high line, and you know that there's space, and you know that there will be chances. So if you're not going to have a clinical finisher, like Timo Werner was, you will not be doing anything. In fact, if you want to hint about how bad this finisher problem is, the top scorer is Angelino with 4 goals. Yes, like for real, Angelino is the top scorer for RB Leipzig with 4 goals. In the table of the Bundesliga top scorers, you will find like 10 or 9 players before you get to Leipzig's second goal scorer, who is Josef Poulsen with 3 goals, and after that you'll find Emil Forsberg way down with only 2 goals, and then you have Marcel Sabitzer with 2 goals. Like, there's a finishing problem in Leipzig. Yes, the whole team scores from what it stands, but there's a finishing problem, a crucial finishing problem with Leipzig. And against a side like Bayern, who you're going to get chances against because of the high line, because of the, advancing fullback situation, you need a clinical finisher. You need someone who puts the ball in the net. If you watch Leipzig's last few games, the game against PSG in the Champions League in particular, they really, shanked the opportunity to defeat PSG at their home because they had a bad finishing. Poulsen missed the finishing sometimes, Sabitzer missed the finishing, Forsberg missed the finishing. They could have had a better season, and they could have had better results, I would say, even than the good results that they're having if they had a proper finisher. As far as Bayern are concerned, this is a big game. Again, not a title deciding game for them, but Hansi Flick will be looking to make an emphatic statement. This is the game where they should make a statement, where they should emphasize that, yes, we are going to be leading the race in the Bundesliga, that's what we're going to do, and we're not going to be standing the fact that, okay, we should be thinking about the Champions League. They don't need to think about the next game of the Champions League. Already qualified, top of the group, nothing is going to matter in the end. So they need to focus on this game, while Leipzig, in the back of their mind, have that dual problem of thinking, should we play this game with all our force, or should we leave some of our efforts to the game against Man United? It's a dilemma, but overall it's an interesting game. Really, it should be a good game. It should be a great game, despite the fact that the last couple of fixtures between these two sides have been tremendously boring, I would say. The 0-0 last season in February at the Allianz Arena was tremendously boring, but you do what you gotta do. That is what basically happens when you are when you play for titles in Germany, when you try to get points out of Bayern Munich. So, as you mentioned, Hoffenheim finishes the round against Augsburg on Monday, and that's a lot for the Bundesliga. In Spain, I think all eyes are going to be on Real Madrid. There's no doubt about it. All eyes are going to be on Real Madrid in this one. Before that, of course, Athletic Bilbao hosts Celta Vigo on Friday. Levante hosts Getafe on Saturday kickoff on lunchtime. And then you have Atletico Madrid facing Valladolid, Barcelona travelling to face Cadiz. This might be a banana skin for Barcelona. Do not understate Cadiz. Huesca travel to face Granada. Mr. Draws, aka Huesca. Betis travel to face Osasuna. Villarreal host Elche. Alaves host top-of-the-table Real Sociedad. And Eibar hosts Valencia on Monday to finish the round. The big game in Spain, I think, and for all the wrong reasons probably, is Sevilla versus Real Madrid. For Sevilla, they don't have anything to consider. They themselves have qualified in the Champions League, and they don't need to worry about anything as far as that. So they're going to be, playing with less stress than their opponents, who they're going to be still missing Ramos, Hazard, Valverde, Odriozola, Carvajal. So for Real Madrid, it is something that it really, shouldn't be happening. This season for Real Madrid as a whole, the form that they're in right now, shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be, they shouldn't be struggling. They're struggling in the league. You look at the table, yes, they are fourth, but they're struggling. They're really, really struggling. Already 12 goals this season. 12 goals this season. Conceded. One clean sheet this season in the league. One clean sheet this season, and that was against Real Sociedad, back in the first round. This shouldn't be happening for a side like Real Madrid, who are, training themselves on being, the biggest side in Spain, quote unquote, that is. Also, just like in Bayern versus Leipzig game, this is one where Real Madrid, in the back of their head, they have the Borussia Mönchengladbach game. And it's even a harder proposition than Leipzig, because Leipzig going out to the Europa League, for example, is, it's not the end of the world, really. It's not going to change a lot of things. Leipzig are going to be continuing to play, they're going to be trying to win the Europa League, get the best finish that they can, and that's it. But for Real Madrid, they're staring at the end of the barrel. They're staring at the Europa League, at the end of the barrel. If they go out to the Europa League, this is going to be a disaster for Real Madrid. And don't tell me, I've seen some people on social media saying that, okay, Zidane is not going to be sacked. No, if Real Madrid are going to the Europa League and they lose to Mönchengladbach, or they go out of the Champions League by any means from the group stages, he's sacked. He is sacked. I don't care. He is going to be sacked all day long, because Real Madrid are not going to be accepting playing elsewhere in February other than the Champions League. So it is going to be the be-all, end-all. And the next couple of fixtures for Real Madrid are not that easy as well. You have, in the next couple of fixtures, you have the Athletics, both Athletic Bilbao and Atletico Madrid. You have the Borussia Mönchengladbach game. It is going to be some hard December month for Real Madrid and for Zinedine Zidane, who are really been wobbling. The performances have been really bad. The last one against Shakhtar was just so lifeless that you almost think that zombies were playing at the Olympijski in Kiev, not Real Madrid really, because there's such a bad disparity between what should have been happening with that squad and what is happening right now. The fact that he didn't get a lot of signings, of course, it's understandable because of the financial situation at the club. They decided to do some work in their stadium, try to extend the size of the stadium, so that all the money is going to be spent on that. That left them without big signings. They brought Odegaard, yes, but they didn't do the right signings they made. They let Reguilon go. They let Achraf Hakimi go. And they lost two fullbacks that could have been really helpful, because Lucas Vazquez is right back. And Mendy or Marcelo, don't get me that stick that Mendy is good at left back. Really? You saw, how many crosses does he make? Okay, maybe defensively he's better. I give them that. But offensively as a left back in Real Madrid, you're not just doing fine. You are wearing the shoes of some great left backs player at Real Madrid. You're wearing the shoes of Roberto Carlos. That legacy is hard to follow. Marcelo did for some seasons, but now I think it's over. And I don't think Mendy could do that as well. And when you let Reguilon go, a complete left back, you see what he's doing at Tottenham is really good. He is really maybe becoming a teacher's pet for Mourinho. While you have Marcelo, and while you have Mendy, and what is your third option, by the way? No one. And you didn't decide to play Eder Militao, knowing full well that Varane is shaky, just because he's French. I mean, there's a whole lot of complexions that you need to wrap your head around when you're talking about Real Madrid. But for this game in particular, remembering the fact that the last two times, Real Madrid defeated Sevilla last season. I don't know how, really, in both fixtures last season. I don't know how, despite the fact that I think Real Madrid were worse than Sevilla, really. Still, at the Ramon Sanchez-Pizjuan, Real Madrid had some terrible outings in the last couple of seasons until recently. So this game, coupled with the game against Mönchengladbach, coupled with the game against Atletico Madrid afterwards, and then against Bilbao, if Zidane doesn't get sacked by the end of the month, he's lucky. If he gets some sort of resurrection over that month, he's really lucky. He's the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, pretty much, in La Liga. He's wearing the shoes of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in La Liga, but doing it, I think, with a more lifeless team than Real Madrid. At least Man United, when they're scrambling for a result, they have the counter-attack, they have the good players forward, they have Bruno Fernandes, a proper number 10, but Real Madrid do not have that luxury. You saw Martin Odegaard against Dynamo Kiev, against Shakhtar Donetsk in the Champions League, and you were like, what this guy is doing? He's very slow, he doesn't have the quickest of thinking, he doesn't have the quickest decisions, so he deprives Real Madrid of a lot of solutions. He deprives them of that, effectiveness, of that boom effect up front. So, Real Madrid on all aspects, this is a game that they should win, but I don't think they would win, though. They are just in too bad of a form, for Sevilla not to pounce on them. Sevilla in themselves, in their own right, who haven't been that good this season, recently taken a drop against Chelsea. I mean, they were playing with the second side, just like Chelsea did. They were playing with, Rakik, Oscar, Gudeli up front, Idrissi. They weren't starting Lucas Ocampos. They weren't starting, Juan Jordan, no Conde, so no De Jong. So you have to be really thinking that the big boys are going to be back, and this is going to give Real Madrid all the headaches in the world ahead of this game. So, in my opinion, I think Sevilla would win. I know that might be an unpopular opinion amongst the Real Madrid fans, but I think Sevilla will win, and I think this is going to give Real Madrid even more of a headache before the game against Mönchengladbach at the midweek. A direct clash between Sevilla win, they leapfrog Real Madrid. Simple as that. So this might be the most crucial game for Zidane's career so far, since his second stint at Real Madrid started, which was bad by all accounts, really. You win La Liga all day long. It's not that competitive, it's not that good, really. Last season it hasn't been that good. You win La Liga all day long, but when you fail in the Champions League gloriously for 2 seasons for 2 seasons in a row, you need to reconsider some of the things that you're doing. You need some reconsiderations for the principles you're choosing, for the players you're choosing. Overall, it should be a good game as well. It should be an interesting game to watch. A tense game for the Madrid fans, yes, but it should be a good game to watch. Finally, in Italy, there's no really big meaty fixtures to talk about in Italy. Spezia play Lazio, kick-off in the afternoon on Saturday. Lazio, I think, should win this pretty comfortably. Juventus in the Turin derby face Torino, a side that is languishing really at the bottom of the table, versus the Pirlo outfit that is not convincing, but they're doing fine, I think. Inter host Bologna. They are rejuvenated. Their hopes are still in for the Champions League. Hopefully, probably they will be resting some of their players for this game ahead of a big game against Shakhtar Donetsk. Verona faces Cagliari on Sunday, Parma Benevento, AS Roma versus Sassuolo, Udinese facing a wobbly Atalanta, Crotone face Napoli, Sampdoria host top of the table and undefeated side at the moment, AC Milan, and on Monday Fiorentina faces Genoa to finish the round 10. That was all. That was a lot for the preview of the week. Hopefully I delivered some good opinions. If you didn't like them, you can comment below. What do you think is going to be happening in the weekend's fixture? At the end, I also remind you to like the YouTube version again, share it, subscribe to the channel for more of this. Are going to be coming back, of course, tomorrow, previewing the Saturday games and talking a little bit in depth about the Sevilla versus Real Madrid situation. Until then, of course, you can listen on Spotify as well, available on Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow us on social media at PitchsidePod on Instagram and at SidePSP on Twitter. Until tomorrow's episode, I'll see you. I was your host, the HOD from the PSP, and until then, goodbye.